people, Scarfy Spurs here, back with another one of these weekly live shows, Monday 8 p.m. Today, I'm joined by, once again, three fabulous guests, all making their first time appearance on the channel, I believe. Start with you, Jay, just come from Holly's show, Holly Hotspurs. How you doing? Nice to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, I just had to, like I said, just had to run from one room to the other to get on so I can use my setup. And I'm very excited to be on and, talk about Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Kallum, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I think you stole me from Luke last night, didn't you? So
I did.
I prefer it over there. This is the dark side that we're on now.
Love it. Nice. Great to have you on, Kallum.
Love it.
Love it. Wynnie, fellow co-host and partner in podcast. It's about time. How you doing?
I know, yeah. I do apologise. There's been a couple of times I should have come on and things have unfortunately got in the way, just such as life. But yeah, I'm excited to make my debut on this channel, mate. So thank you very much for inviting me again. And
no worries. Yeah, it's great to have you. Great to finally have you on. All three of you, like I said, making your first appearance on the show. Fantastic. Thank you all for joining. Reminder, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. You like the stream, leave a like and get involved in the comments if you are listening live on YouTube Monday night. We'll get through your questions, pin your comments for the guests tonight's panel to discuss. If you're listening on any other podcast platforms such as Spotify, don't forget to give us a follow and 5-star review. So let's crack into it, shall we? And start with the all-important Shakhtar game, which was Ange's first home game, resulting in people we don't know, people living under a rock, as Luke would like to say, a 5-1 win against Shakhtar Donesk. So start with you, Kallum. What are the positives you can take out of that? Obviously, a week until the new season starts.
Looking good. It's very positive play. So it's progressive front foot football. It's what we've all been crying out for. 5 goals from, and only won a penalty. So that's always a bonus. Kane 4. He looked sharp. He looked good. And one of our own in Dane scoring his first, i.e. senior goal, even if, can you class friendlies now as senior goals, or is that too much an Arsenal thing?
We'll give it in.
Hot stuff. But so, yeah, Ange ball looks good. And I think if Ange keeps going the way he does, we'll keep getting smiles on people's faces, and it'll probably take away stuff from some of the negativity, I think, from elsewhere within the club and outside the club as well. So, yeah, it was all for a good cause yesterday as well. I think that's the main thing. It's to help.
Yeah.
It's to help raise money for all the stuff that's going on out in Ukraine. And I don't want to make it a political statement, but Shakhtar haven't played at home for God knows how many years. So it's actually nice for them to be able to experience stuff, and all the Ukrainian fans who are over here in England to go and experience something. So 54,000 fans, I think it was in the end, something like that. So good turnout for a pre-season friendly, especially. So I think it showed the support that people were doing for it. So yeah, all in a good day's work, I think, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Jay, what do you make of the game?
I was happy to see what I think will probably be, apart from Højbjerg and Davies, our starting 11 play, in my opinion, them playing, and for them to get more than 45 minutes. I was really dreading at half-time seeing the 11 subs on, 11 subs off. This close to the season, I really wanted to see, in our previous games, you kind of see by the time the first 11 got into the game, it was already half-time and they were coming off. So we didn't really get to see the team, how they would develop in the second half. So I think that was the biggest positive I took from this, was seeing the team in a more game scenario, a lot less crazy changes, and obviously seeing Kane bagging goals, because the last couple of preseason friendlies, I've kind of been worried about his demeanour and the way he's been kind of trudging around the pitch and whether he fits into Ange's system. But he proved that he can fit into this system if he's got the right players behind him, and that's what you saw against Shakhtar.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay, Wynnie, what did you make of that game, and what positives can you take from that?
What I will take, I mean, just try not to repeat what the guys have said already, because I mean they've all just nailed the positives of what we take from it. But one thing I did notice, which it's got me so excited for the start of the season, hoping that Kane stays, but is the link up between Madders and Kane, because we've seen it already. And we've seen it on the England games, although Maddison's only featured a few times now. But we've seen the link up, and obviously his cross into Kane. He knew where Kane was going to be, and Kane was in the right spot to meet it. So I'm very, very excited for that. And just echoing what Jay said. Typically, you play at home the week before the season. You last friendly, and you put your starting 11 out or as close to, so you can get a feel for how we're going to look at the start of the season. And again, I'm assuming Bassoon will come in, and hopefully maybe Van de Ven at the start of the season for Davis, and then that will be our starting lineup. And what I will say is one person I'm really impressed with in pre-season, and I'm not surprised because he's an absolute baller, is Udogie. He just looks insane. He looks like he's been here for years. He looks so comfortable. So there's many positives, and if I'm honest, I can't really pick many negatives out of it, to be fair.
No, absolutely. We won 5-1 at the end of the day. can't be much negative to take out of that. But, just got the stats here for the game here. So we had 32 shots compared to Shakhtar Donetsk's 7, 20 on target, which I find mind-blowing compared to their 3, 68% possession compared to their 32, 734 passes compared to their 359, and our pass accuracy was 92%, and theirs was only 84. So, Jay, what do you make of Ange Ball? Are you enjoying it so far?
I am very much enjoying Ange Ball. I think it's obviously getting the fans on side, and I think at the minute, not to put it in simple terms, but it's all about vibes at the minute. Everything around the club seems to be very positive. The football seems very positive. I think the one thing I would be cautious of is the fan base being realistic for this season. We're going to play nice football. We played really nice football under Pochettino, but didn't win anything. So there's always, this first season is going to be difficult, and under Ange Ball, I'd like to see us go and beat the teams we should beat. However, I do see us struggling against the big six. You listed off all of those stats there. We played West Ham earlier on in pre-season and had similar statistics, but we lost the game. And I feel like teams like City, Liverpool, Chelsea, etc., if we don't take those chances and we're not clinical, they will tear us apart.
Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely the worry, the other side that comes to it that perhaps isn't talked about enough. Wynnie, what do you make of Ange Ball so far? I know you weren't all behind the appointment to start with, but definitely not the only one.
Mate, look, I'm happy to sit here and be proven wrong, especially when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur. Look, my views at the start, I think it was probably a little bit ignorant on my behalf, because I didn't really know of him. Obviously, I knew he was at Celtic, but again, there's just a bit of a stigma of managers that come across or come down from Scotland, should I say, not being up to scratch with the Premier League and realistic in terms of the rest of the leagues in the world. So, but look, I'm absolutely loving it. It's so refreshing from the dross that we've had under Nuno, under Mourinho and Conte. And even I saw a little quote today from Kulusevski, which said, when we went 1-0 up, we're used to sitting back and defending, whereas he was Ange was really pissed off that we with 5 minutes to go till half time, we kind of sat back. He wanted us to just keep pushing and keep pressing, and it just looks that's the way it's going to be this season. It's just literally just going to be relentless attacking after attacking. So with that, I do fear a little bit defensively, because I feel as though teams will counter-attack us. Basically what we've been doing for the past 2 years and the past 2 seasons, they will try and hit us that way. So I'm a little bit scared about defensively, but I'm looking forward to seeing Van de Ven, and hopefully he can plug that gap and kind of eradicate any fears that we have.
Let's hope so. I love that to happen. Fingers crossed. Kallum, what are you thinking of Ange Ball so far? What have you liked out of the games that we've seen in pre-season? Third one now.
I mean, yeah, I think I've liked seeing Udogie going up and down the flanks. I think that's looked quality. I was debating whether to say Pedro Porro. I like what I saw from him or not, but then I remembered he got bounce in the Sailors game with Vicario as well. So it looked like two salmon jumping out of water and all that together, which was something quite concerning. But I mean, I saw one stat today that kind of gave me so much faith in it. It said that under Ange in the last 3 games, 13 goals, 5 conceded with a fullback at centre back, 101 shots, 44 shots on target, average possession 73%, 2,131 passes, and average accuracy of passes 91%. I think there's some outstanding stats when you think there was some games last year where we couldn't even fashion a shot out, and I think it's just fresh air. I mean, if Ange literally wants to do him a barbecue after each game just to inspire him for the next one, then I'll be supporting him hands down and all that. I think when you look at he's got Kane playing well. We won't name Brazil's #1 favourite because then I know you'll not be quiet for the next hour or so about it as well. But yeah, I mean, he's got a forward players going forward. He's got the midfield backing up Maddison, Basuma, Højbjerg, still a little bit under the covers. And yeah, fullbacks going forward. All we need is just people who can cross the ball now into the box. And I think that would be the next step going there. So I think it's been a good pre-season, but I think we could have done with a few more games. That's the only problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Wynnie, am I right in thinking you watched the game?
Yes, I did, mate.
Yes. So, all the important question, focusing on the other side to it and the goal we conceded. Do you think that goal, could have been avoidable? And do you think, signing Van der Ven and you expect to partner Romero, that goal could have been avoidable? Do you think that'll be a problem next season, or with the signing of Van der Ven, you should hopefully really don't concede goals like that? What do you think?
I mean, I don't really know. I've heard the jury's out for him. His aerial ability, even though he's an absolute monster, he should be winning everything in the air. But I've heard a few people say that he's not great in the air. But look, I think because of who he is and how big he is, and his presence, we shouldn't be hopefully conceding goals like that. Because I mean, how many times have we seen a defender get the run on Davis when he's been playing and head on goal? And unfortunately, I mean, I saw people blaming Vicario for that. You can't. There's nothing you could do about that at all. Davis, poor marking. The striker got the run on him and scored the goal. So hopefully with Van der Ven in, we won't be conceding too many goals like that. But like I say, we don't really know. But fingers crossed, we can sort that part of our defensive issues out. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Wynnie. Jay, what do you make of the goal we conceded? Are you going to, who do you blame in that situation? Is it Davis for the poor marking, Højbjerg for the clearance?
I think it screamed to me of a pre-season match for the first time, in the sense of I think Decky really could have closed the cross down a lot quicker and with a lot more ferocity, but he just didn't, allowing that ball in the box. And that's a ball that we've conceded so many goals to before, like Wynnie kind of alluded to. But you'd like to think with Van der Ven instead of Ben Davies, this is what I was kind of saying at the beginning of the podcast with, that was kind of our starting 11 minus Davies and Højbjerg. I just think Van der Ven in there would probably, even if he didn't win the header, would put his body about, like he'd be in the way. Davies isn't the fastest guy. He's not the tallest guy either. And, he's getting on a bit. So, yeah, for me, I think if that was a Premier League game, I would like to think that Decky would have made more effort to stop the cross in the first place. But it's pre-season, so I'm not reading too much into that. But yeah, that's what I kind of made of the goal. It looked like a sloppy pre-season goal to concede.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Thank you, Jay. Kallum, what do you make of the goal we conceded? Do you fault Højbjerg for the clearance? There's a big discussion yesterday on Park Lane Podcast. Do you blame Højbjerg for that clearance? Davis, has he got to do better? Obviously he's not his natural position, centre-back.
I think it's a culmination of errors. I think all of the goals we've conceded on this pre-season have been down to 2 players making a mess. It's Højbjerg screwing up the cross, Kulusevski not closing down, and then just Romero and Davis getting confused who can jump and who stays on the ground. So I think that there's still too many errors in there, mate. And I think that I don't think you can blame one. It's a team game, and the fact is that they literally caused errors as a team. All three of the i.e. back three when they convert down into the system, they're all at fault. Simple as that. I think even Højbjerg, I can't just slam him because he got slammed enough last night. I think if Luke's listening to this, I don't think we'll hear the end of it. So I think we'll leave Højbjerg alone a little bit. But yeah, to be honest, it's just silly mistakes. Ange even said that he's still trying to work on the defensive side. A little bit more difficult for him because he's not actually a defensive-minded coach. So I think that we'll definitely have a lot of games this year where we score 5, concede 4.
Yeah. As long as we score more than we concede, makes sense, right? And then we should be okay. Wynnie, what do you make of James Maddison's performance yesterday? Because personally, I thought he was excellent. And is he this missing piece, the player we've been wanting for years now?
Mate, he's absolutely unreal. I knew that before he signed for Spurs. Obviously, everyone watches the Premier League. Everyone knows that the Premier League's best players, and he is one of them. In terms of creativity, his goal involvement in terms of like goals and assists is up there with the very best. So it doesn't surprise me that he's come in and he's hit the ground running. He's someone who oozes confidence when he's on the ball. Without the ball, you see him outside of the game in interviews and stuff. He's someone who comes across very, very clever, very, very confident. So, look, yesterday he was very, very clever to win the penalty for Kane. A little shift out of his feet, silly defending, but look, you take it. His cross into Kane, like I say, I think, fingers crossed, Kane stays. And they can form that brilliant partnership, which I think they can do.
Yeah, let's hope so. And by the way, we'll be getting on to Harry Kane's future right next. It's an important talking point. Kallum, so what do you make of James Maddison's performance yesterday? I'm glad Wynnie mentioned it. He won the penalty. Kane stepped up, obviously scored, and the fantastic cross for Harry Kane's goal. So the combination is already there. A bit like we've seen at times with Son and Kane. So actually, slightly different question. One, what do you think of his performance yesterday? And two, do you think that the Maddison and Kane link up and kind of Maddison with that creativity offers can help in convincing Kane to stay?
You're killing me here, mate. You're killing me here. No, I think we've been crying out for someone like Maddison since Eriksen left. Was it 2021 he went, I believe, to Inter, something like that. So I think that if he can bring as much creativity as he did in the relegated Leicester side to us, then I think we'll have goals galore. And I think when you see Kane and Maddison in training, in all the pictures, everything like that, I know it's the Spurs PR team doing what they're paid to do, but they actually look happy. And when you hear how Maddison speaks about Kane in all the interviews that he's done over the last week or two, they all love being with Kane, and Maddison actually wants to be at Spurs. He has said that he's here to win trophies. So I think if he can do something, then I think we'll be laughing all the way to bank. And I have a sneaky gut feeling that with Kane knowing that he's not going to have to do all the work, it does make him think, maybe Tottenham are backing me here. Maybe I'll give him another shot. Give him 6 months and maybe he'll score 20 goals and we'll actually be in a good position to maybe go, maybe I like this. And if Kane, Son, Maddison and Kula are all playing well as a front unit, then that's got to be one of the best front fours in the league and all that. There's not many better than that if they're all playing at their top level.
Yeah, absolutely. And time will tell with that. Jake, what do you make of James Maddison's performance yesterday?
He kind of glides across the pitch. I think that's what's so amazing about watching him. And
Yeah.
like when he said the way he won that penalty, you got the ball and you're like, yep, he's won that easy. You know, he seems to make so many split-second decisions all at once, but make it look slow, flawless. You know, if you slowed it down, he's probably thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead. And like, you know, we haven't had a player like that since Eriksen, or dare I even say it, Dele Alli as well. I would probably say, maybe not so much the passing side of it, but I think Maddison, from what I've seen so far, reminds me a bit more of younger Dele than he does of Eriksen. Just the way that he dribbles, the way he gets forward. You know, you see him in the box a lot more than you would have done Eriksen. But yeah, I definitely think he's a missing piece. And kind of going off what Kallum said about Kane not having to do everything. In the last kind of preseason games, you kind of saw Kane dropping in, still going off those old habits, still, you know, going deep and then looking forward and realizing that he can't pass it to himself. And I think this game against Shakhtar proved to him that he can play as a striker again. He can finally do it. That, you know, that year where we had Son, Eriksen, Dele Alli and Kane, that looks very similar to the front line that we could have this year. And we all know how that went. You know, amazing football and you know, the unbeaten season at the Lane as well. If we can make the home a fortress with players like that, and James Maddison's just stellar anyway. He's just a stellar player, and I think it was a real statement signing him. And I think if Kane does stay, I think it is probably a factor in the reason he's staying as well. But we'll probably get onto that next.
Yeah, we definitely will. So coming back to you, Jay, actually, before we get to Harry Kane, I want to touch on Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Like I said, was a big talking point on Part Lane Podcast, which I co-host. If you didn't, and Wynnie as well. And Kallum was on as well last night. If you haven't listened to it already, so I thought I'd bring it up as well. So, Jay, do you think that Højbjerg kind of fits the system? Because he's got a lot of criticism, like, you know, he doesn't suit this. He's only played under defensive managers. He's not very good at keeping the ball on the floor. What do you make of that? And do you think there's still a place with him in Ange's plans?
I think every player in this team has a chance in Ange's system, just purely because of exactly what you've just said. We've played negative football for the last couple of seasons. I think Højbjerg has been a bit of a stat merchant, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, the last couple of years. He's kind of a Danish Harry Winks, dare I say it. You know, a lot of backwards passes, but an amazing pass completion percentage at the end of the game. But yeah, he looked good yesterday. If the rumours are true that he's on his way, maybe it was more of a shop window kind of exercise, you know, playing him against Shakhtar, giving him his last chance to maybe get those last couple of millions added onto that price value if he does go. But yeah, I think every player deserves a chance under Ange, just purely because of it's a total change of system, and a lot of these players haven't had the chance to play in an attacking style of football. But yeah, we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well said, Jay. Coming back to you, Kallum, so with Højbjerg, I know we discussed it last time. Do you think there's still a place in this team for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, or do you just think he doesn't suit the system? We've got a lot of midfielders and we need to cash in on him.
I think there's a job for him to do. Whether he's right for that job is the question. And in all honesty, like you said last night, mate, he was very, very creative for Saints. He had a very good season for us last year, but I guess he just looked better than he actually is because of having Bentancur next to him for so long last season. And when you've got more skillful players, more better ability players in Bentancur, Basuma, and people like that, I think that he will struggle. And I believe Højbjerg's actually quite an ambitious player. So I think for his own career, I reckon he'd probably want to move on and all that. Because he's given some good years. Spurs did the same with Saints, did the same with Bayern Munich. I just think that he's not an Ange type player, but I reckon that he could do a job if he does stay. But we can't expect him to be something he's not. He's a ball-winning midfielder. He's not a box-to-box. He's not a creative midfielder, and we can't label him as such. So I think people just need to get their expectations right compared to what he can do and what he can't do.
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely. Wynnie, what do you make of this? Can you see Højbjerg fitting into this team next season? Obviously, got a week to go, Brentford game. Can you see him in and around that starting lineup, or even in the starting lineup, or do you just think he doesn't suit the system, the way we're kind of playing, and we just cash in on him?
Yeah, I think sadly, I think he just, in my opinion, I don't think he does suit the system really. I mean, he can obviously. The kind of way we played yesterday was two centre midfielders and obviously a centre attacking midfielder in Maddison. So, do I think he can play centre midfield? Yes, obviously, but it's the way that he has to play. I mean, he's in my opinion, his first thought when he receives the ball is to open his body and knock it sideways. And I don't think that Ange is going to be wanting his midfielders to do that. When you look at Basuma, again, it's stark contrast. His first thought is to get the ball, open his body, and get forward, and progress with the ball himself, and try and break the line. So I just don't think he's an Ange type player. If we didn't sell him, I'm not going to complain. He's someone that I think can do a job coming off the bench if we need to shore up a game if we're ahead. So look, I don't think if it's a system, but people like Sarr, who I'm a massive fan of him. I think he's someone who is very, very underrated, and he will be a huge player for us this season. I'm quite happy about that as well. So there's too many people ahead of him in my opinion, but if he doesn't go, he's someone I think who can come on and do a job if we need him.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much. Now moving on to the news that a lot of people have been waiting for, and that is with Harry Kane. People who don't know, Fabrizio Romano put out a tweet this afternoon saying Tottenham have rejected Bayern Munich's €100 million package bid for Harry Kane as first called by David Ornstein. Daniel Levy said no to the German club's proposal, and Bayern will discuss internally on how to proceed after the proposal turned down. Meeting will take place very, very soon. I'm going to ask you once again, Kallum, this time, will Harry Kane be a Tottenham Hotspur player come the 1st of September?
When I first saw that come out, I was going to say yes, but some stuff that's come out since then has me a little bit cautious in terms of saying that, yeah, the offer's been turned down, but lines of dialogue is still open. And the whole point was the ultimatum saying that this was Bayern's last offer that was going to be made. Well, there was an executive meeting between Bayern and Thomas Tuchel today where they was discussing it. And there's talk from quite credible sources who we probably all rely on for our information that said that there could be another offer. So
I'm just going to say, to interrupt you there, Kallum. So we've got this piece by the Telegraph Football literally 30 seconds ago saying a fourth offer from Bayern Munich for Harry Kane is actually now very likely, despite their deadline that they set. In the coming days, with the German club also wanted the deal sorted as soon as possible and before their season starts, with a Super Cup game against RB Leipzig on Saturday, they could make a bid as early as tomorrow morning. So what do you make of that?
Well, I hope Daniel Levy stays on holiday and don't respond to him. I think that's my gut feeling. But no, I do think there's going to be another offer. I think that I think the way that Daniel Levy's rolled up Bayern, they've got to show face and do something. But the thing is, the gap's still 20 million. So you got a choice. Yeah. Want the player? Give us the extra 20 mil. If you're not, go and find someone else, please. Just sod off. Just sod off and leave us alone. That's what it needs to be, because we need to focus on our own season now. And if Levy drops us real up shit creek without a paddle this week, then there's going to be a lot of grief and all that. When there's been no communication with the club, if they're going to do anything, they need to communicate it to Bayern. Double quit. Simple as that. Don't keep going into negotiations. If they didn't want to sell him, do this as the last offer. If not, don't allow sources like the Telegraph, the Athletic, and people like that. Don't keep feeding them information which is just going to rile up the fan base and all that, because it does no one any good. Our first game in 6 bloody days. Ange needs to know whether he's going to have him as his first team striker or gift Orban. And to be honest, my faith isn't really in a kid playing up front yet, and it's definitely not in Richarlison. Sorry, Harry.
Fair enough. So we've got a little post here from Matt Law and Jason Burt in the last 5 minutes. For people listening after on Spotify, confused when that is. This is Monday night. Saying here, Kane is adamant that he will not leave Tottenham once the new Premier League season starts in 6 days' time, and has set a deadline by the end of this week for any move to be agreed before they travel to Brentford. A new offer from Bayern is likely in the coming hours and days. So, Jay, coming to you, because obviously your first time on the show as well, so I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think that Harry Kane will be a Tottenham Hotspur player come the 1st of September, and has your mind changed from this bid being rejected?
I have been yes for a while. I was yes when the City saga was happening. I think Kane will stay, personally. I think the thing for me is the Bayern situation is very similar to the Manchester City situation in the sense of we put a value on Kane. Kane then sees that as what we value him at. And these clubs who supposedly want him really bad are underpaying for him, which indicates that they don't value him the same way we value him, which to the player is probably an insult. If you look what City did, they signed Grealish and they wouldn't pay the money for Kane. Like two, totally different players. I get that. But, if you're going to spend that money on Grealish, don't be wrong. I know Kane's older, but he scored 30 goals last season in probably the worst Tottenham team we've seen in a very long time. I do think he'll be a Spurs player come the first game of the season. What happens after that totally depends on how the season goes. I just think the whole situation for me, I think, has been really poorly managed by Bayern Munich. And I think they've tried to play big balls and they've actually messed up really bad, because I just don't think the way they've come across is very good. Kane's going to...
All of this stuff... unprofessional, Jay?
I think they've been really unprofessional. I do. I think if you also with the stuff coming out about Sadio Mane, I don't know if you've heard about the Sadio Mane stuff that's come out as well. It doesn't seem like a particularly good environment to be in at the minute at the club. And bearing in mind, Kane just put up with a toxic environment. I don't think he's going to want to go to another one. And I think Bayern are scrambling this year. I really do. I think they saw what happened with Dortmund last year, pushing them so close. And I think that it's not going to be as easy walk in the park for Bayern as it was last year. So I think they're scrambling. And if we want to cash in on Kane, then stop messing around and wasting everyone's time and underbidding. We told you how much we want for him, bid for him, and then we'll decide whether he wants to go or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Jay. I completely agree with you. I know lots of Spurs fans will as well. Wynnie, this evening, where do you stand with Harry Kane? Are you now convinced that he's going to stay, or do you still think that he could leave?
No, I'm in the same boat as Jay. I had no doubt he was going to go anywhere. Like, look, I think I'm going to keep it short and sweet, because obviously we've all talked about it and we just want it done with. Look, I think they are criminally undervaluing Harry Kane, the best striker currently in the world. And I know we're going to say that as Tottenham fans, but I think rival fans believe it as well, but they just don't want to admit it. We value it. It's the same as Wilfried Zaha when he was at Palace. I know a couple of times we dipped in the market for him, and other teams did the same. And I think they were quoted something like 90 million at the time, which is crazy. But to Crystal Palace, that is what he's worth. And to Harry Kane, that is what he's worth to us. And exactly, alluding to what Jay said again, it's almost seen as an insult because we value him at that. Kane is happy that we are valuing him at that, but the other team does not value him at that. So he's worth more to us than he is to them. So I think Harry Kane stays. And they're obviously saying if he lines up against Brentford, then he's going to stay. That's all well and good. But I think even now, if we was to do a deal now, it's still too close to the season to be able to do anything. And it will just get our season off to a bad start, which is not what we want, in Ange's first season. So I think he stays. But to be honest, I've always been like that anyway. So.
Okay, fair enough. There you go. It's a good way of looking at it as well. So moving on to focusing of the new season, which starts for us anyway, 6 days time. Premier League resumes 5 days time on a Saturday. So I want to start with predictions. Let's get straight into it. So coming to you first, Kallum, what's your prediction for Ange's first game of the season?
I'm going to say 2-1 2-1 Tottenham. Yeah, I nearly backtracked on what I said last night, so I'm going to go with what I said last night. I think 2-1 Tottenham. I think the only thing that scares me is just the amount of goals that we're going to ship per game. I think we're going to love seeing goals being scored by us, but I think something just tells me there's going to be a few iffy moments to start with and a few goals that we concede. So yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 and hope for the best.
Yeah, okay, I'd definitely take that. Jay, what's your prediction?
I'm gonna go bold and go 4-2 Spurs. I definitely don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. But alluding to kind of what I mentioned earlier, I think if we want to be serious about finishing top 6 as a minimum, we need to be beating teams like Brentford because they're the teams that will be challenging us for those places. And you know, last season for me was an anomaly because we were bad, Chelsea were bad, Liverpool weren't great. So all of these teams like Brighton, Aston Villa, Brentford all got their chances of pushing into the top 6. But I think us being one of them, but I think a lot of the big teams are going to be back with a bang this year. And I think, you know, Ange is going to want to make a statement in his first match. So, yeah, I think 4-2 and a Harry Kane hat-trick. Why not?
I love it. Absolutely love it. Wynnie, what's your prediction? Go for another win?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3-1 Spurs. Again, I said it for the whole of last season. I'm always giving the opposition a goal, purely because I think that's just how we are, and even more so under Ange, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I'm going to go 3-1. I think the link between Kane, because he's obviously still going to be there. So I think the link between Kane, Madders, Son, Kulusevski, or even Solomon, you know, if they choose, if I'm perfectly honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Solomon line up because I wasn't too impressed with Sonny. I know he's coming back from an injury, obviously. I know Decky picked it up second half, but you know, whoever's in there, I think the link up will be too much. But it just depends if we implode at the back, which we all know Tottenham Hotspur are capable of. But fingers crossed we don't do it at the start of the season. So I'm going to go 3-1 Spurs.
Okay, loving the positivity. Wynnie, coming back to you, what would your lineup look like then for Brentford? Because you mentioned you would potentially like to see Solomon. So run me through what your kind of lineup would look like compared to what we've seen in the last game.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I know obviously I made that Solomon link. I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't be against it if it did. I think it's going to be the exact same formation and lineup as previous, but with Basuma, if fit, in for Højbjerg, and hopefully Van de Ven, if he's ready to go and raring to go, in for Ben Davies. I'm a little bit torn on the right back situation because I'm a huge fan of Pedro Porro, but defensively, which he needs to have, he's not up to scratch, and he's certainly not defensively better than Emerson Royale. So it depends what we want from him. But I think I would be safe, especially first game of the season, and go Emerson Royale. So, like I say, the team that lined up against Shakhtar, but with Basuma in for Højbjerg and Van de Ven in for Davis.
Okay, I'm liking that. Jay, what's your ideal, forgetting what you think will happen, your ideal lineup compared to what we've seen in recent games, most recently against Shakhtar? What would you like to see?
I don't know if me and Wynnie were brought up the same, but I'm going to have to say exactly the same thing as Wynnie. To me, it's Basuma in, Van de Ven in, and yeah, I think Emerson Royale was one of the most underrated players in that preseason friendly against Shakhtar. I think it went under the radar how good he was. There was a lot of, and obviously in this new Ange system, you're seeing a lot of him traveling into the middle of the park with the ball, very Man City-esque, when like Cancelo used to do that quite a lot. And obviously defensively, he's a lot more sound than Porro. So if we're concerned about preseason jitters, I would play Emerson Royale. If we wanted to go out and blow the doors off it, I would play Pedro Porro. But yeah, I'm going to be boring and say exactly the same as Wynnie. Sorry.
No worries at all. Good man. Thinking like they say, Holly says, apart from the no-look pass that Everson done in the box, that'll be the second time
It's got to make the
that now.
compilation. It's got to make the compilation video.
It has, yes. Yeah, the first one he done it definitely went round. Kallum, so what would your lineup look like?
Oh, this is where the fun begins.
Indeed.
I will be going with a back five of Ben Davies at left back, Emerson Royale at right back, Joe Rodon, Dyer, and Sanchez all at the back. Just to see what people, and just for your sake, I'm gonna follow what the guys have said, mate. That
I thought you'd been serious then.
I was worried then. I was worried.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
worried.
I'm not that delusional. It hasn't been that long a day. I know I'm tired, but Jesus, I think hell would have to freeze over if that ever happens. To be honest, I think I'd go with the same as both the guys. I might say Lo Celso for Sarr, maybe. I just think it's a lot of pressure. It's not about his ability. It's the pressure that he'll be under for a team like Brentford, who are very good at counter-attacking football, and they will be trying to match our press for press and all that. So I don't know. Maybe Lo Celso just for that more creative aspect, for Basuma just to sit in for Højbjerg. But yeah,
I'm not against that. Yeah.
I just think it offers a bit of stability compared to giving the poor sod a game where he could end up being run riot by Burmo, and that was painful watching that last year against Emerson Royale and Porro. So I mean, God help if that happened to Sarr as well, it'd probably ruin him in one.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. So moving on, I want a one-word answer from you all, and starting with you, Wynnie. How many points are we getting in our first 3 games?
I'm going 6 points.
6 points. Okay, positive. Kallum.
-12.
Love it.
No,
Yeah.
probably 3.
Okay, so we're going for a win and a loss somewhere. Jay?
Just because I don't want to say the same answer as Wynnie again, I'm going to say 4. I think a win, draw, and a loss would be a balanced start, but I actually think 6 points. But I'm just going to say something different.
Say something different from Wynnie. Fair enough. So that are, for people who don't know, the first 3 games are Brentford away, Man United at home, and Bournemouth away. So get involved in the comments. If you are listening live on YouTube, how many points are we getting in the first 3 games under Ange? This is interesting. You always want to start the season well. The system's still brand new to the players, so I don't expect us to get off to a flying start. But Jay, coming back to you, what are your realistic expectations for this season? You talked about potential minimum of top 6. So would you be happy with, let's say, just finishing 6th?
I said this when Ange was appointed, and I've been arguing with Spurs fans on Twitter for ages, saying I don't think our fan base is patient enough for a rebuild, and this season will prove that. I think our fan base is going to have to be very realistic in what we're going to achieve this year. I think top 6 is in my eyes a realistic goal to set. Obviously, top 4 would be amazing, but like I said previously, a lot of teams were off the boil last year, and I think Chelsea and Liverpool are going to be out for blood. So that top 4 is going to be very difficult for us to get into implementing a new style of football. However, though, I am ambitious on the cup front. No European football next year. There's no reason why we should not see our full starting 11 starting in the FA Cup every match. There's no reason why. It's the League Cup again. I take it. It's a trophy. It's a trophy. You saw from them lot down the road. A lot of us were taking the mick out of Arsenal the way they'd celebrated. Like, we wouldn't go absolutely mental if we were in the chance to win a Community Shield. I definitely would like a domestic trophy, and top 6 would be my realistic goals for the season.
I'll definitely take that for sure. Wynnie, you were not in throughout. Do you have the same goal for next season or slightly different?
I mean, pretty much. Yeah, I'd like to see us do well in the domestic cups, as Jay said. We've got no reason to, as we know that the turgid bloody lineups that we always get in the League Cup and the FA Cup, where we put out our youth squad, the majority of our youth squad with a couple of first teamers in there and get knocked out. So I believe Ange is a firm believer of cups. So I think even if we did have European football, I think he still would have gone strong in the domestic cups. But yeah, I think there's a couple of teams that teams like Aston Villa who have done very, very well with the transfers pre-season. So I'd expect them to be up there. Brighton look very, very good again. So there's too many teams going, and the resurgence of Chelsea under Pochettino, and I think Liverpool, I'm not 100% sure on them just yet, because they've still got a lot of work to do before the season starts, because obviously they've got rid of all of their midfield and haven't replaced them. So obviously I originally thought sixth it would be a realistic aim. However, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but depending on a couple of things, I think fifth in the English Premier League is Champions League this season. Mm-hmm. So why not push for that? If we're thinking sixth, let's just push once more and go for fifth. So my aim is for fifth this season. I don't think we can break the top four. I think we're not ready for that just yet. However, this could be, a shining light for us in the fact that fifth can get Champions League this season. So let's go for that.
Yeah, absolutely. This could really help us next season. It's definitely motivation. One thing that Ange definitely doesn't lack. Kallum, what are your realistic expectations going into the season? 1 week away.
I'm like Wynnie and Jay. I want to get fourth or fifth. If we get seventh or eighth, I would be very concerned. I don't want to be playing in the Checkatrade Trophy. I do not want to be going all over Europe next season to God knows where in Azerbaijan. I'm not going to lie. If it came down to, I would either get fifth or sixth or come 10th. Simple as that. I would not want the third tier European competition. So we've either got to go strong or don't go at all. Simple as that. So I'm going to say probably sixth. I still think we're a couple of players off from being solid because we haven't done enough clear out yet. So our squad, I can't even tell what our bench is going to look like. Maybe the starting lineup, but nothing else. We've got a squad built for Europe. It's not good enough for Europe, which is kind of ironic when you got 37 players and about 15 aren't good enough. So yeah, I'm going to say sixth.
Okay, thank you, Kallum. So moving on, before we get to the touch on once again the increase in match ticket prices being a week away from the season, and the questions people put forward on Twitter this morning. So thank you for your patience if you are still listening or watching. I say on YouTube as well. I want to touch on before that interesting question. So I'm going to start with you, Jay. So if the transfer window shut today, assumingly we bought in Van der Ven and Vilex, what would you rate it out of 10?
I'm going to get lambasted by some YouTube channels here, but I'm going to say 8 or 9. I think it's been a perfect window I for what we wanted at the start. This is the thing. It goes off realism. I said previously when I was on Holly's show about if we sign Tapsoba, I don't know why we've still got Eric Dyer at the club. I know he's not the player, but he won't be starting every match. And last time Eric Dyer played in an attacking system, he was decent. Granted, he played CDM, but he's going to be on the bench this year. Romero's going to start unless he wants to play for Argentina. We all know how that goes. But goalie, number 10, 2 centre backs, 1 left-sided, a winger, and what more could you want? Do you know? Like I think that's if we close the window today, people that I see obviously all the gift or band stuff going around on Twitter and stuff. It's like, come on, this isn't Football Manager. You can't just sign everyone every season. So yeah, I'd probably say an 8. But that might come back to haunt me if Vicario drops a stinker or Solomon's rubbish or Maddison breaks his leg or something horrific. But yeah, I think an 8.
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. I completely agree with you. I think you have every right to think that as well. And what people also forget is, although it may not be a new signing as such, it almost feels like it is that important. The signing the likes of Kulusevski and Porro, we're talking about 2 first-team players, keeping hold of them, making them ours, signing them permanently, and that still costs. Yeah, we're talking 40 million for Porro, and what was it, 25 million for Kulusevski in the end? That's big money. For Tottenham Hotspur, who don't actually spend that big compared to the likes of Manchester City. So, Wynnie, what would you rate the transfer window out of 10 if it's shut and we brought those 2 players in?
Yeah, I'm going strong. I'm going 9. I don't see what else we could have done. Assuming that means obviously we're keeping Harry Kane also, which, to be perfectly honest, just keeping Harry Kane is a 10 out of 10 window for me, because he is he's priceless. We cannot replace him. So, and obviously we're not forgetting we brought in Phillips as well. Another young centre back who can add to the ranks. So look, I don't think we could have done any more than what we have done and what we've addressed. Obviously, the jury is still out for Vicario. I think he's got the makings of a great goalkeeper already. You know, his first couple of games were a little bit nervous, but watching the game yesterday, he was very vocal. He was commanding in his area. His first thought, as soon as he got the ball, was to roll it out to the centre back and get the ball going. So I think he's somewhat perfect for Ange's system. So we'll see what he's like in the Premier League. But yeah, I'm going 9. I don't see how we could have improved it any further.
Okay, thank you, Wynnie. Fair enough. Kallum, you going for another positive score?
I'm going to be more conservative. I'm going to be 7.5. I'm going to say purely not about incomings, more about outgoings.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
The squad's too inflated. We've got, if Van der Ven and Phillips come in and Vallejo as well, you got, I think that takes us up to 39 in the squad. So I think, and I think that gives us about 8 centre backs as well. 8 centre backs, 6 or 7 wing backs.
Yeah, far too many. I'm also going for a positive score. I'm also going for an 8 out of 10. For me, the reason it's not a 10 out of 10, I'm glad Kallum mentioned this. Part of it is because we haven't moved the players on. We've still got far too many wing backs, far too many centre backs. Not of the quality, but more of the quantity. I think also midfielders, we've got a fair few. Some could potentially be loaned or maybe cash in the likes of Højbjerg if he doesn't fit in the system. Also, for me, this comes to the goalkeeper choice. I think that I definitely wanted David Raya. And I think that I don't want to say it could be a mistake not going for him, because Vicario could turn out to be fantastic. He pulls some great saves off against Shakhtar. But obviously David Raya is a bigger profile. He's Premier League proven. And for me, as someone who likes David Raya, that would have contributed massively. So that's all that's missing from a 10 out of 10 window, really. We signed a top quality centre-back, signed Porro and Kulusevski permanently. James Maddison, that easily is 3, 4, maybe even 5 marks or points, whatever you want to call it. Top player. Solomon, young talent for free as well. You can't really go wrong. I'm very happy with the players that we brought in. Now it's just, I think, rest of the window, focus on getting players out the door. So there you go. That is my rating, 8 out of 10. So I think we're all fairly positive on that, which is great to see, put it that way. But before we move on to the questions that people put forward this morning on Twitter, thank you once again for your patience. I want to touch on the increase in match ticket prices. I know I keep bringing it up a lot on the show for people who do listen, but I think it's an important talking point, especially because we're only 6 days away from our season starting and 5 days away from the Premier League season starting. And obviously we had the increase in match ticket prices protest outside the Shakhtar game. As well, that was done before the game and went on quite a long while. And what is interesting is you've got a tweet here from Tottenham All Podcast saying £268.50 is the price it would cost for a parent to take 2 kids to Spurs' first home game of the season and buy them a bagel at half time. And that £268.50, that's without travel, drink, petrol, programs, etc. included. Wynnie, what do you make of that? And do you think it's the, kind of just the Tottenham problem? Is it a Premier League problem? I know the answer to this, but is it a Premier League problem? And is it too late to reverse that decision?
If I'm honest, I'm a bit ignorant with this. Look, I think it's just the way times are moving on. Not just what we got to remember is I know obviously the club has a lot of money. We know that, but I just think the way that the climate is moving, I think things are going to increase. And obviously, I'm a little bit annoyed that for me, obviously, my dad is a season ticket holder and I'm just a member. So just touching on that quickly, I was ecstatic for him that they froze the season ticket prices, and then a little bit later I found out that my membership was going up. So, I think they haven't handled that well. And look, I think they know that. Look, I think the first 3 home games have sold out, so they know that they're going to get bums on seats. So it is a little bit naughty. But yeah, if I'm honest, mate, it's just my personal opinion is it's just the way that the times are going. Possibly, but the way times are moving, mate, I think we need to just be realistic and think that and just expect things to increase with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything at the moment, pretty much everything in the world's gone up. At the moment, I think you find some of it hard that hasn't gone up. Or the quality of something has reduced. And Barney can relate to this as a Fulham fan. He will know from next season, for the first time, Fulham will be paying the most expensive season ticket in the Premier League with a new stand. Kallum, can you understand the frustration towards the increase in match ticket prices? And should it be reversed, or have you just kind of accepted it now?
It's a difficult one, mate. Inflation's gone up. We're still paying off stadium debt. We've remortgaged it. It's a life problem now. It's not just in general in football. It's across the board. I was buying some materials for work today, and for a bloody fixing, I paid, I think, 50 pence more than I did last week, and that's how inflation has gone. So I mean, it's ridiculous to think about it, but yeah, it's very difficult, and people don't like it because it's going to hit their pocket, and it's going to push a lot of fans towards watching in pubs, going on TV, watching it in bars, all of that stuff. But even that's going to be expensive. And I think, like Wynnie said with his dad, there's so many season ticket holders and people waiting for a season ticket. There's always going to be backsides on seats one way or another. And people will always find that little bit more, because football is an escape for a lot of people. It's their way of just detracting from their own life to help themselves just have a relax for 90 minutes, just shout and scream and love life. But I don't think the Premier League can solve anything. I don't think the government can solve anything. I think, is there still the hold on away tickets? Is it 30 quid for away tickets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. But when you got it going forwards, you can't expect, clubs have got to make their money as well. And this football's a business these days. It's not about the game. It's purely a business. And with the influx of media money, with the influx of everything, going to a game is going to cost you more. I mean, I think I went to the Bournemouth game last year, and it took me God knows how long to get there. I drove down, I parked somewhere on the high road, cost me £20 in fuel. I then got in there to watch a turgid game of football because my mate gave me a season ticket for the day, and it still cost me 60 quid plus a bag drop and then a pint of pint. So it must have cost me over 110, 120 quid for a game that I literally went home festering in, that I was ready to just scream and shout at the car on the way home. So
yeah,
so
it's a lot better when you win.
Yeah.
To say the least. Jay, I think you're the only one out of here that I haven't spoken to about, because obviously I've spoken both Kallum and Wynnie on Part Lane podcast. What do you make of the match ticket prices that Spurs have done. Can you understand it? Should it be reversed?
I'm not going to make any friends with this, but I think it's because of the area of work I work in as well, working in finance. I think the thing is for me is, we've got a 60,000 seater stadium. The only thing that would solve this issue is it being a million people seater, so all of the fans could go, and then they could reduce the price down. The issue you've got is exactly what you said. You've got 60,000 seats available. Probably what, 3/4 of them are season tickets, and then you've got the rest of the market fighting for this tiny gap. I think it is just a business. I think people pull the cost of living crisis argument, but going to a football match is a luxury. And me and Holly went a lot last season, and this season times are tough, and we're probably not going to be able to go to a game unless Holly wins some free ones on Twitter, fingers crossed. But we're not going to be able to go to a game until after Christmas, realistically. I think it's very difficult. You've got to take into consideration we've gone from White Hart Lane to this brand new stadium, which we all say we love, but that's not for free. Granted, it's not had the success we wanted. Also, you've got to factor in, we want to make all these signings. People would be happy to give Kane 400 grand a week. Where do we think that money's coming from? It's very difficult, and unless you're sat in the boardroom looking at the finances, you don't know the ins and outs. And to be perfectly honest, the thing that I find the craziest about going to the stadium and the whole day out is it's actually cheaper to drink inside the stadium than it is any of the pubs around the stadium, which is absolutely crazy to me. And I don't know any other club that has that. That is the only thing I would question. I think if the naming rights come in, then maybe we might be able to see a reduction. But the whole time we've got to pay off this stadium, it's very difficult. You don't just move into a house and then let everyone move in for free. That's just a poor business decision. But it's very difficult, and I do understand that a lot of people would want to go to games, but football is a luxury, and if you want to go watch football, I'm not saying you don't deserve to watch Tottenham. But I'm saying, you can still go watch football. You can go support your local team if that's the sort of atmosphere you want to get. But yeah, it is a very difficult issue. It's a very difficult issue. And like Wynnie, I have family members that have got season tickets. So sometimes I'm lucky to go, but that's very rare because, they put themselves through that torture all the time for some reason. But, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a tough one.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And thank you all for sharing your opinion on this. Obviously, it is a sensitive and difficult subject, if you like. So people in the chat who are listening live on YouTube, we want to hear your thoughts, how it's affecting you, family members, friends, and if you can understand why the club have done this and if you think it still can be reversed. But moving on to the questions people put forward finally on Twitter this morning. So thank you for your patience, as always. Starting with Scouting Spurs, says, which players will be the most improved from playing Ange ball instead of Conte's restrictive defensive system? Jay, I'll give you that question.
It's hard to say. I think the best player next season, if he plays a lot, and he didn't particularly play in Conte's system, is going to be Gio. I think Gio looks so free. He looks so energized. He looks like such a brilliant player. Obviously, Son kind of came out and complained about Conte's system and the amount of running he was having to do. So hopefully he has a bit more freedom to get back to the old Sonny. But I just think the whole squad in general, to be perfectly honest, are going to benefit from this for their play. A lot of the players we signed have just not been able to flourish because it's negative football, and it's very hard to flourish in a negative side. So yeah, I think the whole squad will benefit, to be honest.
Yeah, let's hope so. Kallum, I'll give you the next question from Barney, who's tuning in. So Barney, let me know what you think of this answer from Kallum. So here we go. Barney says, given that Harry Kane played a big part against Shakhtar, what's your opinion now, Harry, how the club will approach this ongoing? Will he go, and what do you think of the situation?
You're horrible. You're so horrible giving me this one.
I saved it for you. Don't worry.
I think we're going to be. I think it'll be a lot clearer when we play Barcelona tomorrow night. I would say that if we see Kane starting, then fingers crossed he actually gets injured, so then he can't pass by medical, maybe come back to us within a couple of weeks. But no, in all seriousness, I think that if he does play, I think it's a much better indicator that he'll be staying with us. And I think, in all honesty, I think the club just have to manage the situation now. They have to just see Bayern calling up, turn the phone off. See a fax coming through. If Bayern still do faxes, turn off printer. So yeah, I think that it's just got to be literally, they've got to manage it. If he's going to go, he's got to get it sorted in the next 2 days. If he's here by Thursday, Friday, he's got to be playing against Brentford. Simple as that.
And we don't want it to affect our starts of the season like it kind of did 2 years ago under Nuno. Barney agrees with your answer. Kallum, a massive shout out to both Barney and Chris, who always tune into the shows. So thank you very much, Barney, both part of the podcast and my own. Me and Barney are very, very good friends. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Barney. And thanks for your question, as always. I love that he always leaves one. Next question. I'm going to come back to you, Jay. Ben says, who was your man of the match yesterday?
Probably Destiny, just because I don't want to say Kane because that's kind of obvious. You know, he scored a hat trick. It's very hard to not be man of the match and score a hat trick. I thought Destiny was really good. He looked again. I think both of the fullbacks were definitely in contention. I think Destiny got a lot more of the limelight just because of his attacking abilities. So yeah, you know, and if he'd got the goal, it would have been a no-brainer for him to be man of the match. But he definitely looks like some player, and we've definitely got a gem. I think a lot of people were concerned with him coming back, being that we signed him for a system of a back five, and now he's playing in the back four. But he seems to be fitting in naturally, and he seems a very confident player. But yeah, yesterday for me, Destiny was man of the match.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Wynnie, I'm going to give the last question to you from Finn. Finn says, what are your thoughts on Jed Spence and the rumours that he could be potentially sold this summer? Where do you want to see him go? Do you want to keep him or sell him?
Wow, what a question. If I'm honest, I think if I'm completely honest, I thought he was someone who may benefit and flourish under an Ange system. But do you know what? It just doesn't seem like he's. I don't want to throw it out there, but he doesn't strike me as someone who does. But I know there was reports of an attitude problem previously, so I don't know if that's something that's creeping in again. I know he obviously he went on loan to Rennes and wasn't really he featured but wasn't really outstanding. So look, I think it's just one of those that we have to just put a line through it and go, look, okay, maybe he wasn't someone that we thought he was going to be. We thought he was going to be the next best thing, and it's turned out to be a bit of a mistake. So I feel a little bit sorry for him because he hasn't really been given a chance. I feel that he should have been given a fair crack at the whip to try and at least break into the team, but he didn't get that. But I think, do you know what I would do? I would probably loan him out to a Premier League side, because we loaned him out previously to bloody France, and you're not really going to gain anything Premier League wise from there. So I would probably keep him, loan him out to a Premier League side, and then see.
Would it be just a straight loan, Wynnie, or would it be a loan to buy?
I would probably. That's an interesting question. I would probably just go loan because, like I alluded to, I feel like he needs a fair crack of the whip, and I don't think he's been given it. So I would give him a loan to a Premier League side, see how he does. And if he does great, then we get to keep him. And if he does naff, then hopefully just try and flog him back to the Championship, maybe.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. And that is all the questions that people put forward on Twitter this morning. Thank you very much. And that is also it for today's show. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, thank you all for your questions this morning. It's 3 wonderful guests, starting with Jay. Where can people find you? And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I very much enjoyed coming on someone else's podcast, which is quite nice. So you can find me mainly on Twitter, talking about Spurs. I normally quite like to be a little bit controversial just to wind people up. It's quite fun on Twitter. So you can find me on Twitter mainly for content stuff. I'm on Twitch. I've got a YouTube channel, but I don't really use it too much. I don't have a podcast or anything. I'm more of a gamer. So if you like FIFA, eFootball, all of that fun football games stuff, then find me over on Twitch. But yeah, thank you again for having me on.
The pleasure's all mine, Jay. Kallum, where can people find you for people who don't know? Thank you for coming on. Your first time on the show.
No, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I'm on Twitter mainly, Kallum Stubbs 97. So if you guys want to just chat Spurs, just drop me a message. And I'm probably quite moderate. I think I'm quite reserved, so I'll probably be a little bit balanced view. So if you guys want to chat, just drop me a message. If not, hopefully you'll see me about somewhere or other. If not, I will be sitting in the director's box next to Donna Cullen next weekend.
Oh, what's happened to him?
We have lost our host.
The Donna Cullen joke's done him in. He's back.
What happened there?
Daniel Levy's hacking your Wi-Fi again, mate.
He is. Kallum, did you finish your piece where people can find you?
Yes, I did, mate. Yes, I did.
Oh, perfect. Didn't miss that much then. Wynnie, not saying anything. Wynnie, where can people find you? People who don't know, and talk to us. Talk to people, should I say, about the podcast that we co-host, Park Lane Podcast.
Yeah, of course. On Park Lane Pod every Sunday at 7 p.m. You know, we're getting some good views on there as of late. So, you know, if we can keep that going, that would be great. Grow the channel. You know, as we do it for a bit of fun. So we're not looking for anything major, but you know, if we can continue to grow it, then that's great. Wynnie 1991 on Twitter. Again, similar to everyone said, if you want to message, just hit me up. And I'm also the admin, or one of the admin for the Park Lane Pod Twitter as well. Wonderful. So yeah, so if you know, we try to post on there as much as we can, and we get some good interaction. So if you see anything and you disagree with it, then message me and I'll message you back.
Yeah, there you go. Sounds good, right? So yeah, thank you to all three of you. Reminder, if you use your channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. Go follow all these fabulous guys on the socials. That'd be massively appreciated. If you are listening after on the podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. I know lots of you do, such as Spotify. If you want to follow me, up to you really, couldn't care less. Harry Scarf 22. So yeah, and you can find me every Sunday 7 p.m. on Park Lane Podcast. But as we always say on this show, come on you Spurs.
Come on you.